Hey folks, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. In this case, the topic is UV light and LED light application. I promise it's a video you just don't want to miss. You're gonna be learning something pretty cool, actually something pretty interesting. If that's not the case, leave a thumbs down at the end of the video. But if you do learn something that you didn't know and you find it to be interesting, leave a thumbs up and subscribe. Okay guys, let's get right to it. Some time ago I did video review of this flashlight. It's my daily carry flashlight. As of right now, it's a Streamlight Sidewinder Compact tool. There's a review of it if you look it up. Basically it has a bigger white LED, and it has a couple of other LEDs as well. It has an infrared LED, it has a blue one, and a red LED too. It has red there, UV, which you see in the camera but you cannot see with the naked eye, and blue and white as well. Now, I was talking in that previous video about how I would have liked to have UV light instead of the blue LED. Reason for that is that UV light has several applications. You probably know many of them already. UV light is used for detecting organic material, CSI type of thing, like you see in the CSI series. They shine that UV light and they find spots of blood, of urine, of fluids, from in the crime scene. Some people use those for checking how clean bathrooms and sheets in hotels are. If you shine one of those UV lights, you're actually quite surprised by the stuff you find. So it has that use. It also, the kind of things that are fluorescent for UV light are not only fluids, scorpions, for example. Those also shine kind of brightly with UV light. UV light also has the application of being used for detecting counterfeit currency, even though it's not the only measure in which you detect counterfeit money, and some things can be done so as to work around that for people doing counterfeit bills. It's one of the most common methods. That's one of the reasons why I like the idea of a UV light. I had used a small UV flashlight such as this one, a small UV light like this one, in my keychain in Argentina, specifically for that, because of the crisis, people would end up buying and selling dollars and pesos quite a bit. If you had a little bit more money, more pesos, you would save that. Instead of saving the pesos, you would buy dollars instead, which wasn't losing value as fast as the local currency. So you would go with your pesos, buy dollars. And one of the ways, besides looking for the little face in there, the colors changing, the texture, that bar with letters on the inside, besides looking for those things, one of the most common things to look for was, turn that light off, was looking for, you see these little kind of hairs? Change that. Those would be things you would be looking for. It's not only the pesos that have those, of course. Most other bills, look, this one changed into a kind of like an orange bar in there. Even with the light, you see that as well. For other bills, for euros, that happens too. Those little freckles of little strands are quite visible. So that was one of the applications that it has, and one of the reasons why I was interested in maybe having that blue LED replaced with a UV light. Now, I also knew that UV light is sometimes used for other applications, such as sterilizing a material. in medical applications, it's actually used quite a bit these days, and it has been for some time. With UV light, you can actually sterilize. If you had material to be sterilized, they leave these in this small trays with a UV light, and in actually just a couple minutes, it sterilizes wherever the light reaches. Of course, it actually has to be reached, the surface has to be reached by the light, but if it does sterilize it. The process by which it does so, it's not that different from the bad thing about UV lights, especially if you know about tanning salons, that with a UV light you can get cancer because it modifies and affects the genes in the cells. It affects the genes in the cells of those small organisms, and that's why it's used in such a way. Now, in terms of UV lights, this is basically the visible spectrum, all right? You have the different wavelengths. Below 400, it's ultraviolet, higher frequency. Under 400, it's considered to be UV light. Now, not all UV light is the same. You basically have three types of UV light. You have UVA, UVB, and let's see if I change that there. UVA, UVB, UVC. UVA goes from 400 to 315 nanometers. So UVA just under 400 nanometers. UVB between 315 and 280 nanometers, and UVC goes between 280 and 100 nanometers. UVC is the one that is worse for your skin. It's the one that causes the worst kind of cancer. All UV light actually is bad for you, because the closer it is to that frequency, the worse it is. Actually, for UV disinfecting, they use a frequency of between 240 and 280 nanometers. That's the frequency of UVC light used for disinfecting, also used for disinfecting water. You may have seen these little things called SteriPens. It's like a flashlight with a little rod in there. That little rod has a UVC light in this frequency, and just stirring the water for about a couple of minutes, it sterilizes the water that you have in the container, in the glass. Now, the water has to be somewhat translucent enough so as for the lights to reach all of it. If there's small particles, the UV light may not be reaching it, so you may have to pre-filter it. But if you have maybe tap water in Mexico and you don't want to get any kind of diarrhea or something like that, you just use UV light and it does sterilize it. That, I thought, it's pretty interesting. I thought about having one of these UVC lights in a flashlight would be pretty cool to disinfect water with your flashlight that easily. That would be something I would be interested in. Now, reading a little bit more, I found out that even with these smaller UVA lights, this one is in the range of 365 nanometers. Actually, when I shine it, the large blue spot that you guys are seeing, thanks to the camera seeing more of the ultraviolet spectrum, I'm not seeing it with the naked eye. I see a very, very light purplish color instead. When I look through the camera, I see it much brighter. That's because of that ultraviolet light that my eye cannot see. But as I was reading more and more, I found out that even the 365 nanometer UV light is gonna be disinfecting water as well. The only difference is that because it's further away from that frequency in which it has the best results, just a couple of minutes disinfects a glass of water, even with this little LED, it's gonna be disinfecting water as well. The only thing is you have to leave it for more time, maybe 10-20 minutes, but it does disinfect water as well. It's actually used, UV light is used industrially for disinfecting water. There's a billion-dollar or several million-dollar plant being built, probably already is, in New York City for disinfecting water with UV light. Even if it's not UVC, this 365 nanometer being close enough to the frequency to the wavelength used for disinfecting, you're going to be having to leave it for more time, but it's going to be disinfecting water. Now, not only does it do that, which I kind of already knew, as I kept on reading, I found out that UV light can also be used for disinfecting wounds. This little flashlight, this little thumb button cell flashlight, is useful for disinfecting wounds as well. There was research done with rats that were on purpose, for the purpose of research. They were cut and that wound was infected. They had a control group and the group where they were exposing UV light for about 5-10 minutes a day. The control group, 9 out of the 10 rats that they died because of the infection. Of the group that was using UV light in the wound, it disinfected the wound, and 9 out of the 10 rats they were treating with UV light survived. It's clean, it's sterilized, didn't clean because that wasn't the purpose. It prevented the infection in that wound because of the UV light. So with something as simple as this, if you have a small cut, you can leave it for 5-10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, just for an extra measure, close enough, it's gonna be improving quite a bit your chances of avoiding an infection. That, at least I found it to be very, very interesting. That's amazing, especially the applications that you have with something as simple as that. So because of its use for detecting bodily fluids, use in counterfeit money, also this stuff about being used for disinfecting water, wounds and such, I'm having, as of right now, a little UV light in 360 nanometer frequency wavelength in my keychain as of right now. But that's not all. I kept on reading stuff. I found this to be so fascinating, and I ended up reading about NASA red LEDs, red LEDs. The thing is, NASA has been using red LEDs for improving the growth of food vegetables in space. Apparently, shining red light in your veggies improves the growth and the quality of it. So this has been used by NASA for some time. I think the study, this is all found, folks, in the NASA website. You can verify all this stuff about the NASA red lights, the red LEDs. With the red LED, they were improving quite a bit the food production, the quality of it, and they also found out that it has reduces the pain in cancer patients. Cancer patients that have gone through chemotherapy, just 1 to 5 minutes a day of exposure of red light reduce significantly the pain being felt by the patients. And they use these panels with commercially available red lights, red LEDs, just a panel with several of them, but of the same type, commercially available LEDs, and they were having those results. So now people started doing a little bit more of research and such, and they ended up finding out that red LEDs have a beauty application as well. It regenerates, it helps remove spots and scars from skin. It has an anti-aging effect on skin, which is actually approved by the FDA, which they don't approve just anything. It's been proven that it has a positive effect. It's an anti-age effect that it has on skin. 5-10 minutes a day. It helps remove scars. I think it's not sure about the exact thing that happens. The red light improves the production of collagen and elastin in skin, and that makes for skin look more younger and more flexible, and it improves the quality of the skin with a red light treatment in the frequency of 670 nanometers. So it's a red LED, bright red LED, that's used for this purpose. I thought that was interesting enough, and I ended up going online, found tons of these being sold. They sell these like panels with lots of little red LEDs and like a hand flashlight, again with a panel full of small red LEDs, and apparently it does work. Now, as I kept on reading, I found out a study using blue light, and I came across this. Change their modes for a second. Light therapy by blue not red, blue LED improves wound healing in an excision model in rats. This is a study made by Natalia Adamaskaya, Peter Dangel, and this is a research center in Austria, I believe it is, somewhere in Europe. And what they basically do, this is the paper, the article in press release. Basically what they do is, with a commercially available, it's a Philips brand LED, they ended up trying the effects of blue, red, and they had a control group. So they had 3 different groups of rats. I think it was like 7 rats or something like that. 3 groups of rats. One group was not exposed to any kind of light. The other group was exposed to a blue LED, and the other one to a red LED. So they got these rats, they shaved them on the sides of the body and made 2 circular wounds on each rat. And they exposed them for the 2 ones that were going to be using it with blue and red. Those were exposed to blue and red light for 10 minutes each day for 7 days. And what they found out was pretty amazing, and I honestly couldn't believe it, but it's pretty clear that it actually works this way. These are the wounds in the rat 7 days later with no light, right? No light, the wound. And this is blue light 7 days later. 50% increase in the way the wound was healed. 50% smaller, just 7 days, 10 minutes each time, 10 minutes a day of blue lights, blue LEDs. These are commercially available Philips LEDs. I don't remember the model, but it was something that was generating a little bit under the light that this flashlight is generating. This stream light, it was a little bit under the intensity, this intensity. Just 10 minutes on those rats would achieve those results. So if you have something like this and you have a wound on you, just 10 minutes a day, it's going to be making that wound heal 50% faster in just 7 days. I found that to be amazing. With the different, with the control group, they try these out, and the red light didn't work as well. Actually, the wound healed a little bit slower with the red light than with the control group, which basically says that the red light works for improving scars and elasticity in skin and such, the production of elastin and collagen in skin, but not for actually healing an actual wound. For that, red light is not good. Now blue light is actually pretty amazing, 50% faster. And here's a paper on the, basically to sum up, blue light by LED proves to exhibit positive effects on wound healing parameters. Here it is. One of the mechanisms may be the influence of blue light on nitric oxide metabolism. Our previous studies have shown that blue laser irradiation is able to release nitric oxide from nitric oxide Hb complexes, improving local tissue perfusion. Blue light from LED also facilitates the recovery of mitochondria inhibited by nitric oxide gas by release of nitric oxide from mitochondrial complexes. That's basically the medical thing explained. I was just amazed at the results, how great the results are with just commercially available, at this distance. It's going to be having those results. That's pretty impressive in my book. I just found that to be amazing. And I don't know if you guys knew all this. I sure didn't, but I think I'm going to be keeping the blue light, maybe changing the infrared one for an UV light if I later end up modding this flashlight. But for the meantime, keeping a small UV light at 360 nanometers in my keychain for the purpose of those things that I explained just before. Folks, remember the promise. If you learned something from this video, thumbs up and subscribe. You're going to be liking what's coming up. Take care, have a great day, and see you on our next video.